The Barathon is one of the largest snakes of this era, descended from pythons that were already very large during the Holocene. However, these pythons were non-venomous constrictors. Now, the Barathons have two huge hollow fangs containing a powerful venom that paralyzes their victims in less than a minute. They are slower and heavier than their ancestors, and the venom helps to calm their prey while they suffocate them. Despite living in the mountains, they remain cold-blooded animals needing the warmth of the sun to provide their bodies with enough energy. Females are larger than males and take care of their offspring. They are solitary animals, meeting their counterparts only for mating purposes. In 100 million years, the order of iguanas will experience a new golden age, with many species diversifying from the few survivors of the sixth mass extinction of the Anthropocene. Agamosaurus has adopted the ecological niche of the agile and lightweight predator, a niche that has led it to resemble the theropods of the Mesozoic era even though they are not related at all. The small frill on its back allows it to capture more heat as it lives in the high mountains of what was once called South America. The continent has once again become an isolated island, forcing species to diversify into all ecological niches in order to survive. With the drift of the continents towards the north, the mountain range that was once the Alps has merged with the African Atlas and the Asian Himalayas, forming a gigantic chain that spans the entire Old World, creating an impassable barrier for most animals. Only those adapted to cold and rugged environments, like the ibex, which clearly replaces the ibex of the Holocene, can thrive. Descended from iguanas, it has become a warm-blooded animal, highly active and agile. It lives in herds of several dozen individuals, with horns growing exclusively on the heads of males, as they use them for interspecific combat. They are very fast and enduring animals that easily evade their predators. In the southern mountains where the temperature is warmer, the zurd is also an iguana that has taken the ecological niche of herbivorous mammals. However, due to the heat, this species is cold-blooded, and it even possesses a small sail on its back to dissipate excess heat. It is an animal adapted for speed, capable of running at over 100 km per hour on very rugged terrain. Standing at a meter tall at the shoulder, it resembles the African gazelles of the Holocene, but it is much more agile. Like them, it feeds on the surrounding vegetation in small groups of about 10 individuals, with some individuals eating while others remain alert. Their colors provide effective camouflage against the reddish rock and amidst the leaves of the semi-arid forest. The bathopper is one of the few bats that have adapted to a more terrestrial lifestyle. Its wings are completely atrophied, and its arms are even very small. However, its hind legs have elongated and become much more muscular, allowing the animal to move in great leaps, similar to grasshoppers. It is nocturnal and solitary, feeding on small organisms such as insects, snails, or worms. With its large ears, it detects the slightest movement in the vegetation. Since its food sources are less abundant in colder seasons, it hibernates in a burrow that it digs itself. The female gives birth just before hibernation, and the young spend their first months with their mother in the burrow. The deathnopede is a distant descendant of the myriapods, a branch of arthropods that once had several dozen pairs of legs. This new species no longer has any legs at all, moving more like snakes. It is an amphibious animal, and having numerous legs would have been too cumbersome and slowed it down for swimming. It is a formidable hunter with a lightning-fast venom that kills its prey instantly. It hunts small terrestrial and aquatic arthropods, as well as small vertebrates. However, its venom is so potent that it can take down animals much larger than itself, making it a feared defense mechanism against its own predators. The mantises are efficient insects that have adapted to numerous ecosystems over millions of years. Most of them are carnivorous, but the saltus feeds on grass. Its only defense mechanism is flight. It has large hind legs that allow it to leap several meters. Being herbivorous, the notorious postmating cannibalism does not exist in this species. Males are responsible for caring for the eggs laid by the female, which means the pair remains together until the female lays eggs. The eggs remain under the male's abdomen until they are about to hatch, then he releases them into a water source. Here's another species of flying mantis that never approaches the ground. In the past, they flew just above the water's surface, but were vulnerable to fish that leap to catch them. The flying mantis has grown larger to discourage smaller predators and now remains high in the canopy of marshes. It has 6 wings that help it maneuver adeptly among branches, which is handy when it's chasing other flying insects. All its legs have evolved into wings, so it remains constantly airborne, a flight that doesn't exhaust it due to the lift generated by all its wings. However, to rest, it hangs from branches using its 2 front legs, which are equipped with hooks. Here is an example of a symbiotic relationship between 2 entirely different life forms. The floating tree is an angiosperm whose air-filled roots allow the organism to float on water so that it can move with the currents of rivers and marshes. An insect related to bugs lives in its branches. It is a piscivore that takes advantage of the shade provided by its raft to fish for the fish and shrimp that have taken refuge there. The insect is a pollinator. At the bottom of its nest grows the flower of the tree that hosts it, and when it moves to another floating tree, it enables the plant's reproduction. Also, when the tree gets stuck on the shore, the insect can help it get back into the current. The leaves emit toxic gas, and only this insect has adapted to this condition, making the relationship unique. The slow evolution of lungfish and their amphibious lifestyle did not provide them with legs to colonize the land. These animals have always remained uncomfortable in terrestrial environments and unable to breathe underwater with their lungs. Guagualada, which lives in muddy waters, no longer needs eyes and has lost them, hunting small invertebrates by sensing vibrations in the water. Males are much smaller than females and use the same technique as deep-sea anglerfish to reproduce, by attaching and then merging with the female's body. This is their sole and ultimate purpose in their existence. Here's another amphibious fish. This one breathes well in water but crawls on land to reach other ponds. The Amazon basin has submerged under the Atlantic Ocean, causing the fauna to flee or adapt. One adaptation of the lubge is to become viviparous, giving birth to fully formed babies, allowing the mother to care for them without waiting for them to hatch. Additionally, eggs are vulnerable to numerous predators, while a formed baby can flee and hide elsewhere. There is a real parental investment in these fish. The offspring will stay with their mother for the first 6 months of their life to learn to find microorganisms, beware of predators, and especially learn to leave the water and detect new ponds. Some freshwater fish were of large size, such as the catfish that lived during the Holocene, reaching up to 3 meters in length. The fishing kubwa seems to be its direct descendant, still living in freshwater marshes in what was once called Southeast Asia, but it does not resemble its ancestors. Its front fins have become muscular and ossified, similar to sarcopterygians, allowing it to crawl out of the water and remain invisible to its prey. It has 2 large tentacles on its lower lip to catch any fish that come near, capable of detecting water vibrations. Then the tentacle quickly wraps around its prey and brings it to the immense gaping mouth of the kubwa. With the disappearance of the Amazon basin under the Atlantic, species had to either adapt to marine life or move to the constantly receding shores. Most piranhas became extinct over the course of 100 million years, but the false piranha survived by adapting to terrestrial life. With a sufficiently varied diet, it could explore other ecosystems, still having gills, but the air in the swamps of what was once South America is extremely humid, allowing it to breathe in that moisture. It developed powerful hind legs for making long jumps to move around or catch insects in flight, giving it the appearance of a toad. Frogs have been able to refine their flying abilities over the millions of years that followed, those flying species using their hind legs dating back to 95 million years ago. The emerald flying frog has a wide membrane of skin between its hind legs. It doesn't truly fly but glides between the trees of the dense canopy in the swamps. It feeds on flying insects and primarily lives in trees. The humidity of its environment is sufficient, and it doesn't need to return to water like its ancestors. With the warming climate and the drifting of continents toward the north, Antarctica is no longer covered in ice, leading to the emergence of new ecosystems and allowing animals to colonize these new lands. Some freshwater fish, especially among the siluriforms, have spent more time out of the water to catch new prey. Over millions of years, a sort of second wave of fish has developed, growing legs in place of fins. The buruku is an example of this adaptation, with legs strong enough to support its weight and lift it out of the water. The animal has lungs and only returns to the water for rest. It's a slow and solitary creature, sporting a dorsal sail, a vestige of its dorsal fin, which serves to appear larger among its peers. These animals are territorial but prefer to avoid conflicts. The claws above its head are venomous, mainly serving as a defense when in the water where its predators are larger. Females lay eggs in calm and protected waters, similar to amphibians. With the iguanas, this period is marked by the diversification of crocodiles. While most of them became marine, some species adapted to terrestrial habitats or specialized in swamps, like the cookie-cutter croc. This small crocodile underwent the most bewildering modifications, literally losing its jaw to obtain a circular mouth resembling a large suction cup. It feeds in a similar manner to a species of abyssal shark, by ripping pieces of flesh from large animals living in the water. This causes serious injuries without killing the animal, unless the crocodiles gather around the same prey. Their teeth are small, and they only target soft tissues. The bloodsucker frog is the smallest and weirdest frog in these ecosystems. Most of its organs have degenerated, and it obtains all its nutrients from the blood of large organisms in the swamps. A dart protrudes from its mouth to suck the blood, and its soft body can double in volume to store the liquid. The process takes several days. Therefore, the tiny frog has suction cups instead of feet to effortlessly cling onto its host. Gravid females lay their eggs through their mouth into the host's body, and the heat of the host's body incubates these eggs, accelerating their growth. Once hatched, the tiny offspring exit the host's body through any available orifice without causing disease. Here's another form of siluriforms that frequently ventures out of the water. The Kashimbala has developed external swim bladders that fill with helium to become lighter than air and float like a dirigible balloon. The dense, humid air of its swampy environment helps it navigate with its fins, but it doesn't fly quickly. The thick surrounding vegetation protects it from strong winds. This fish feeds on tiny flying insects, which it gulps down by opening its mouth towards them, akin to how whales feed on plankton. They return to the water occasionally, especially for laying their eggs. For this, they expel the helium from their gas bladder and revert to being fish adapted to an aquatic environment. Macambo is a gigantic caecilian that can grow to over 20 meters long. These animals are descendants of amphibians, but even though they are found in humid environments, they no longer have constantly wet skin like their ancestors. This giant is placid, feeding on algae, fungi, and small invertebrates. It has a tiny head proportionally to its immense body, and it moves surprisingly silently through the forest. Females lay eggs with a solid shell in nests located in the middle of ponds, protecting them from terrestrial predators, with the nest covered by large leaves. They provide no protection to their offspring. Before or after hatching, out of the 20 offspring, only one, on average, will reach adulthood. The rear legs of the tripod toad have fused to become a single powerful leg, allowing it to make leaps of around 20 meters despite being only about 50 centimeters in size. This enables it to quickly evade predators and also to unexpectedly pounce on its prey. They are quite large for toads, living in small groups of around 10 individuals and fiercely defending their ponds against unfamiliar conspecifics. Interspecific conflicts often result in fatalities, with a pond full of food being the cause of the violence in these conflicts. During the rainy seasons, when the ponds merge together, there is a truce among the toad clans. Food becomes plentiful everywhere, and the boundaries become less clear. The king of swamps must be the crocodilian that has strayed the furthest from the basic morphology of its ancestors. Over 100 million years, it has acquired the appearance of the dragons born in the collective imagination of humans during the medieval era, or even earlier. Its ribs have split, and the external portion has projected laterally, creating functional wings. The animal can also stand bipedally, although it mostly remains on all fours. The wings lack articulation, so when folded, they extend upward side by side, forming an immense crest. The animal cannot truly fly. Its wings serve to impress interspecific adversaries, even though its 15-meter length should suffice. It is far too heavy, and its wings are too small. Perhaps it is a species in transition toward the first flying crocodiles. The Naja emperor is a direct descendant of the cobras from the Holocene. It has retained the same appearance for millions of years, but has become much larger and more dangerous. Its size matches that of its prey, and its venom has also become stronger, making it a highly formidable and feared animal. It leads a solitary lifestyle and hunts by ambush, but unlike its ancestors, it has better vision and does not rely solely on its sense of smell to find food. The male and female form a couple during the incubation of the eggs, and after hatching, the male leaves to live alone while the female cares for her offspring. The mother's assistance helps the babies survive the first few months of their lives, after which they must fend for themselves. Like the previous species, Jaguania has retained the general morphology of its ancestors, the green iguanas from the Holocene, and has grown larger to deter predators. It is a calm and docile herbivore that lives in small groups of about 10 individuals. They can defend themselves with their claws and horns, but generally prefer to avoid conflicts. The group is matriarchal, with females being larger than males, and they do not care for their offspring after they hatch. Despite their size, these animals are comfortable on the rugged terrain of the jungle. They spend a lot of time in the water like hippos, and come out at night when it's cooler to feed. Just like South America, North America is sinking beneath the Atlantic Ocean, and the fauna there is much more reduced in terms of both number and diversity compared to the rest of the world. However, iguanas, which were already native to this continent, have managed to adapt to these changes. A species similar to the zurd has seen its legs elongate and its claws take on the form of hooves to adapt to the rugged terrain of this new island. The manova is equally comfortable in swamps as it is on steep mountain terrain. It is a very prolific species that feeds on grasses and lichens. The eggs of all females in the group are laid in a single nest and are guarded by all members of the herd. Their best means of defense is their speed and agility. Despite its name, the ground crocodile is not a crocodile. It was named as such because of its large size and amphibious lifestyle. It is a colossus, with some individuals reaching over 15 meters in length. This animal moves slowly through shallow ponds in search of aquatic plants. Unlike its squamate ancestors, it is a warm-blooded animal. Its body produces its own heat, allowing it to be active continuously, although it spends much of its time sleeping. Despite being herbivorous, it is a dangerous animal with an unpredictable nature. Its lifestyle can be compared to that of terrestrial sloths from the Miocene era. These animals are solitary, only coming together for reproduction. Females care for their single offspring after hatching for over a year. The false naja is a vulnerable creature in the marshlands of what was once called India. Descended from storks, this bird is quite different now. It no longer flies, and its short legs prevent it from running fast. It had long been isolated on islands in the Indian Ocean, an insular environment without predators, which gave it the morphology of the dodo. However, the drifting of continents fused the island with the mainland, exposing it to a new fauna. Its best defense mechanism has been to mimic the appearance of the most dangerous predator in the region, the emperor naja. With its neck and arms raised, it manages to deceive animals that might otherwise attack it, even fooling the snake itself. It moves in small groups and eats whatever is available. Eggs are laid directly on the ground without a nest and are not guarded by the mother, a habit retained from when they still lived isolated on their islands.